Speech off.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So I wanted to do my final wrap up for May. I guess it's more my May book update. Since, I've already covered other books. So I have a few left to cover. So I'll just get started. The first one is The Hangman by Louise Penny. I gave this one 4 stars. The Hangman is a novella. I think it's between books 4 and 5, so it's very short. So basically, there is a murder, someone is hanging from a tree, but it's not all as it seems, hence why the title, The Hangman. Yeah, it's not quite. Anyway, it's short. I can't really say any more than that because I'd ruin the whole story, but things are not as they seem. So, yeah. Next, we have Before I Called You Mine by Nicole Dees. I give this one 5 stars. I'm pretty sure I first heard about it from Lou from Christian Faith and Fiction, and then Katie from Paperbacks and Ponytails read the book last month and got me excited to read it from her talking about it. That's what happens a lot of the time when I watch BookTube. I will hear about books that are already on my TBR, and I will get more excited to read them because somebody's hyping it up. So, basically, this book is about Lauren Bailey, and she is having no luck in the dating scene, and she really wants a baby. So she decides, you know what? I don't need a man. And so she is going to adopt a baby from another country. And right when, she gets approval for the process and everything, she meets a man. She's a 2nd grade teacher, and this guy, Joshua Avery, is subbing for a classroom next to hers, and she, falls in love with him because he's really good with kids, and, he's like the perfect guy. And he is. I really like him. I mean, literally the first scene where we meet him, he's making he's in some kind of animal costume, and he's making, I think it was a dinosaur, and he's making noises, animal noises, and it's really funny. But yeah, so basically she's in trouble because now she's in love with this guy, and she can't be with him because she already told the adoption agency she'd be single for a while. So it's that whole thing and kind of how they overcome that. She also has family that I don't particularly like. That's the only downer to this book. I liked her. I liked all her friends, but her family sucks. And I'm glad there is a moment where she tells them off, even though, this is Christian fiction. So, there's the whole thing of forgiveness and stuff. So, she feels sorry eventually. But me, who am not the most forgiving type, I'm glad she told them off. But yeah, 5 stars for this one. The next one is The Secret Book of Floralia by Patty Callahan. I gave this one 5 stars. I don't even remember where I heard about this first. I've been hearing about it from a lot of booktubers. Krista from Books and Jams, Amanda from The Curly Reader. Everybody and their mother has been talking about this book in every book podcast. Yeah. So basically, it's about 2 sisters, Hazel and Flora. Hazel is 14 and Flora is 5. They are evacuated in 1939 to a village to basically escape the bombs of World War II. This is in England. So they get taken in by this lady named Bridie, and she has a teenage son, Harry. So, yeah. Hazel basically is Flora's kind of caretaker, she's the big sister. And so she knows that Flora's scared, so she makes up this imaginary world for Flora, like this fairy tale thing. And what is it called? Anyway, Flora disappears when she's playing near the river, and they think she drowned. And then 20 years later, Hazel's working in a bookstore in London, and she sees a book, and it's called Whisperwood, which is, Whisperwood and the River of Stars. And Whisperwood is the name of the imaginary world that her and Flora played pretend with. And as far as she knows, the only one who knows about this imaginary world is Flora. And so the question is, did she write the book? And we go on this quest to find out. We get flashbacks from her time as a child and present day. She's trying to unravel this mystery. I'm not going to tell you, obviously, any more than that because that would be spoiling. But yeah, it's a great read. It's complications, relationships and stuff like that. And yeah, but it was a great read. I give it 5 stars. Okay, then we have Mommy Tracked by Whitney Gaskell. I give this one 3 stars. I'm pretty sure I got this one from Chloe from Always Booked. She did like a video where she talked about books that had mother or mom or whatever in the title. And I don't know, this one just sounded like easy breezy read. It was not quite that easy breezy. It's about 4 different moms who basically go to the same like moms group and kind of their different struggles. When honestly, saying much more than that would spoil the whole story. And it's part of the reason why I didn't like it that much, because it was like, we get their issues, we see a couple chapters, like, we go alternate chapter by chapter, but we don't really get too deep into the issues before they get solved, quote unquote. It just seemed too easy that they solved them in the end. But hey, I mean, it's like, it's supposed to be not that deep. I don't know. One of them had weight issues, like she thought she was fat. Another one was a super workaholic and neglected her husband and children. That one was a little difficult for me, only because, okay, and this could just be my own biases. I don't know. I mean, I had a stay-at-home mom till I was like 14, so I guess as bad as it sounds, in my mind, that's how the world functions, because I loved it. But, I know that the norm now is both parents work, generally speaking, a lot of the time. And, but it's hard because, like, the way her story ended, like, I didn't like her. I didn't like any of the decisions she made. I didn't like the fact that her job took over her entire life to the detriment of her kids. Like, I agree with her husband. Like, honestly, I wanted her husband to divorce her, which he didn't do. Spoiler, sorry. It's hard not to spoil this one when you talk about it. But, I don't know. It also felt like I didn't know what I wanted the solution to be, because I wasn't totally satisfied with where she ended up anyway. Because, like, are we saying that women can't have it all? Work and be good parents? But men can because men care less. Like, I don't know. Because I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this book. But I didn't like her, but I also see kind of the injustice of how her story ended. And there was another one who was like a single mom, and she's kind of considering dating and then not dating, and I don't know. It wasn't my favorite book. So let's just keep going. Next is The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. I give this one 4 stars. Okay, this was a surprise for me. I'm not a romance reader. I can be, but I'm very picky about it. I might do a video about my very weird pickiness and criteria with romance, but I was never interested in Christina Lauren. But Anne Bogle from What Should I Read Next, when she talked about her summer reading guide, she talked about the True Love Experiment, which is kind of the next one in that universe, and it sounded fun, but it's about a character that was in The Soulmate Equation. And so I was like, I'm not going to just read the sequel, even if you can read it as a standalone. I want to know what this Flossie is like. So I read this one, the first one. And I'm still on hold for the True Love Experiment. I'm actually not even sure if I'm going to like the True Love Experiment now, because Flossie was annoying, which is the main character, Jessica's like best friend. But I did enjoy this book either way. Basically, is her name Jessica? This is so bad. But yeah, it's basically about this, woman who, she's a single mom and she doesn't want to fall in love. And she, you know, because she had like mommy issues or whatever. And, her mom kind of neglected her, so she doesn't want to bring any men around her kid or whatever. And so she basically resists and everybody's kind of pushing her to fall in love or whatever. That part was a little bit annoying because I think that's one of the things I don't like so much about romance novels is that it's like everybody's pushing you to find someone when that doesn't necessarily have to be the end-all be-all. You don't have to have a relationship to be happy. So that, I think I just hate the matchmakers in romances. I generally like friends to lovers where they kind of come about it on their own. And I think this kind of ended up being that. I thought the guy was going to be a bigger jerk than he was, but he wasn't. Basically, he works for this sort of program, like experiment type thing called Genetic Ally or something, where you like test your DNA to see who's soulmates with who based on, it's hard to understand, but basically her and this guy end up being soulmates at like this insane level. Yeah, Jess Davis was her name. And so yeah, her and how can I not remember names? Dr. River Pena. Dr. River Pena and her are like 98% match compatibility for soulmates. And they want to test this experiment, so they have to date for a while. And at the time when I first heard about this book, I'm like, this is so dumb. I don't like orchestrated romances and stuff like that. And I also heard that they hated each other. And generally when couples hate each other, or, you know, it started out as enemies, I generally hate the guy that she hates. But I didn't really hate this guy, which was nice. And I loved her daughter and I loved her family. So I really enjoyed this book overall, even though it was kind of set up, if you know what I mean, as romances often are, but whatever. It was fine. I give it 4 stars in the end. And I'll see how I feel about True Love Experiment. I don't know. I mean, like I said, Flossie was a bit annoying, but we'll see. I didn't hate it. So, okay, next book is The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. This was actually on the Currently Reading Podcast Indie Press list. I think it was last year or the year before. I've had it on my TBR forever. Basically, the Currently Reading Podcast does this thing where they pick a bookstore, an independent bookstore, and they have them pick books for their Patreon patrons, and we buy them from that bookstore. In my case, I buy them through Libro FM audio, you know, the audio service. I donate to their bookstore and I buy through there. So I've had this one for a long time and I finally read it because I want to watch the TV show on Apple TV. I'm currently watching the show now. It's great. So I'll give this 5 stars. So I'll read the description for this one. It's kind of complicated. Before Owen Michaels disappears, he manages to smuggle a note to his beloved wife of 1 year. Despite her confusion and fear, Hannah Hall knows exactly to whom the note refers. Owen's 16-year-old daughter, Bailey. Bailey, who lost her mother tragically as a child. Bailey, who wants absolutely nothing to do with her new stepmother. Protect her. As Hannah's increasingly desperate calls to Owen go unanswered, as the FBI arrests Owen's boss, as a U.S. Marshal and FBI agents arrive at her Sausalito home unannounced, Hannah quickly realizes her husband isn't who he said he was, and that Bailey just may hold the key to figuring out Owen's true identity and why he really disappeared. Hannah and Bailey set out to discover the truth together. But as they start putting together the pieces of Owen's past, they soon realize they are also building a new future, one neither Hannah nor Bailey could have anticipated. It described it so perfectly because I'm not really against stories where the stepchild hates the stepmother. I love bratty teenagers, at least girls. I don't know why. I think because I was a bratty child, it's kind of fun to read about one. I don't know, whatever. But, if you're, like, not really into that, it is not like that, really. Like, she doesn't like her stepmom. Bailey does not like her stepmother. But it's not like she's a monster to her, really. She has a couple of moments where she could be not great, but generally speaking, she's just like, I don't want anything to do with you, you know? I'm 15, I don't need a mom anymore. It's that kind of thing. And their relationship sort of grows organically as they have to work together to solve this mystery. And so it's really good. Like, it's not your typical, I hate you type of thing. Like, it's just understandable that she doesn't like her because she had no use for her. Like, she had it good with just her and her dad, and, you know, I don't know. I wouldn't like a step-parent at that age either. I don't think I'd like one now. I'd probably be meaner than Bailey. But anyway, it's hard to go anymore without talking much. But anyway, the next one is Homecoming by Kate Morton. I gave this one 4 stars. I actually got hyped to read this one by Kelly from Kelly Reads a Lot. She read it last month, and so, or this month? This month. Yeah, it was like her mid-month wrap-up, I think. Whatever. Anyway, she got me excited to read it. I've had it since it came out, but I hadn't picked it up. I need to work on reading more Kate Morton. I have the majority of her books, and I've only read this one and The Forgotten Garden. I have to say I like The Forgotten Garden better. This one was a little slow in starting. But once I got into it. So I'll just read the description. Adelaide Hills, Christmas Eve, 1959. At the end of a scorching hot day beside a creek on the grounds of the grand and mysterious mansion, a local delivery man makes a terrible discovery. A police investigation is called, and the small town of Tambia becomes embroiled in one of the most shocking and perplexing murder cases in the history of South Australia. 60 years later, Jess is a journalist in search of a story. Having lived and worked in London for almost 20 years, she now finds herself laid off from her full-time job and struggling to make ends meet. A phone call out of nowhere summons her back to Sydney, where her beloved grandmother Nora, who raised Jess when her mother could not, has suffered a fall and been raised to the hospital. Nora has always been a vibrant and strong presence, decisive, encouraging, young despite her years. When Jess visits her in the hospital, she is alarmed to find her grandmother frail and confused. It's even more alarming to hear from Nora's housekeeper that Nora had been distracted in the weeks before her accident and had fallen on the steps to the attic, the one place Jess was forbidden from playing in when she was small. At loose ends in Nora's house, Jess does some digging of her own. In Nora's bedroom, she discovers a true crime book, chronicling the police investigation into a long-buried tragedy, the Turner family tragedy of Christmas Eve, 1959. It is only when Jess skims through the book that she finds a shocking connection between her own family and this once infamous crime, a crime that has never been resolved satisfactorily. And for a journalist without a story, a cold case might be the best distraction she can find. So yeah, we kind of go back and forth between time periods, between present day with Jess and the Turner murder case that Nora was kind of involved in, you know, like what her family was involved in. So we kind of see it flash back and forth, and yeah, there's some twists that you don't see coming, and you kind of change your opinion about certain people as you go along. People are not as they seem. You see the imperfections and the flaws and how people can do really bad things for the right reasons, and it's Yikes. Although I do wonder, this is the second Kate Morton book I've read, and in both of these books, the moms will, like, up and leave their kids with grandma. What's up with that? Is this a theme in all of her books? Although in this case, this is a little bit more complicated than in the other one. But anyway, it's just funny, but whatever. The last book I read was The Amish Midwife by Mindy Starnes Clark. I give this one 2 stars. Look, I've been looking forward to reading this series for a long time, and I had also put it off because I was reading it through the NLS, National Library Service for the Blind, Bard app, and they have some of their own narrators for some books that are not available in commercial audio, and that narrator was not great. But I was going to struggle through because I really wanted to read the book, and I did for this first one, and I don't know. I wasn't really into it. It sounded good on the surface, but as I got into it, I'm just like, I don't even care. Because you don't really get to... Okay, so basically, it's about a girl who was adopted, and her father dies and gives her, like, these family heirlooms that her birth family gave them when they adopted her. And so she goes to find her birth family, and she ends up being this, like, midwife, helping this midwife who ends up being related to her. And, like, because she kind of got in trouble, well, for practicing illegally, for one thing, and a baby and its mother passed away, too, so there's that. That causes issues with the police. So she comes in, and this girl comes in. I already forgot her name. That's how little I cared. And she wants to know... Lexi was her name. Lexi wants to know her story, and this midwife woman won't tell her. You're being disrespectful. Amish are just supposed to forgive and forget. You know, all that. And there's a deeper story behind it, and the story is so twisted that by the end of this book, I just hated everybody, including, I didn't really hate Lexi too much, just because if I had a family secret, I would probably do the things that she did to find out the truth, blackmail them. Look, she was literally going like, okay, whatever your name is, I already forgot the midwife's name.
Speech on. Close. Button. Near right. Stop recording video. Speech off.
Sorry, my battery's gonna die. I was saying that, like, she was literally blackmailing this poor woman, this, like, midwife. She's like, okay, I'll help you with this one case if you answer one question. Like, she had her so hard to get information because that's how much she wanted it. And, like, you know she's doing a bad thing because, like, this woman has to, like, decide, okay, should I spill my family's secrets or should I let this woman die in childbirth so that this Lexi girl gets, you know, doesn't find out my family's secrets. It's either she doesn't help this woman in labor or I tell her the family secrets. So I was just like, you are bad. You're all bad people. I don't know. It's not like the Amish books that I typically would want to read. So, and you don't even get to know the Amish families very well either. I don't know. It was just wild, this book. So, I don't think I'm going to continue the series. I took the rest of them off my TBR, and that is the end of my reading month. Ended on a low note, but whatever, it's fine. Lizzie Faye, stay away from these books. They're terrible. And you're Amish in April. Anyway, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye.
Speech on. Stop recording video.